Anybody that is at the front, please listen. Anybody that is at the front who is a speaker, please follow Dr. Omar when I instruct you. Everybody else, please wait here until you get further instructions. I repeat, please pause here.
Guys, can I please get you to clear this area, please? We need to clear this area, please. Thank you.
Please listen to your stewards. You need to make space and move.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
I am live. I am recording for you. بس كان لازم لازم دائما
شوية بس بعدين الرجال.
You are not healthcare workers. Like me, please move to the back and allow the healthcare workers to stand to the front.
Do you know, brother, you need to push this one as well.
no.
Okay.
Just take this guy. Come the other one. That's what
This one had to shut. We need the person with the banners at the front.
Okay. Sorry, we're gonna. Do you want to come in? Might be easier.
See, like you guys are saying. Holding the banner, please follow me. Only those who are holding the banner. Only those who are holding the banner. Go that way. Are they going to?
Where is this banner going from here?
Outside of them. Anyone else who is not holding the front banner, please step back. Please step back. Anyone who is not holding the front of the banner, please step back.
I'm coming there then. Hold on.
Just for me.
No, who are you? Sorry, one moment. Who are you? I will ask, but please respect the boundary. I will ask and I will come back.
If you are not holding the white banner, you must get back. That means everybody behind you have to step back to make
Can I get in?
Limited number. Sorry, limited number.
We'll catch up.
I understand. Limited number. Hardly any space there.
I have sorry.
I have to ask.
I am president. It's unorganized at all.
Well, we are healthcare workers. We have healthcare workers. Be patient with us.
Okay, that's fine. Look, you're at the front. So
Those of you by the tree, thank you. Any non-healthcare workers by the tree,
It's live.
moving down. There is a lot of space down
Be patient with me. I will come back to you.
accept that.
I'm good. Everything's fine.
So you can't. This is mine.
Take it. I'm going to speak to you. Right.
He's over. Oh, he's on the outside. Yeah, we have to go round that one. Yeah. Go on, Ollie.
So guys, you can see lots and lots of people. It's not
هنا كما نلاحظ الوقفة الخاصة بالأطباء والممرضين والعاملين بالقطاع الصحي في بريطانيا أمام مقر الحكومة البريطانية بعد مسيرة صامتة كانوا بها، والآن هم يقفون أمام مقر الحكومة البريطانية بانتظار بدء الكلمات على المنصة المعدة لذلك.
Next to them, please stay off the statues. Thank you.
Professor Shah! Professor Shah! Professor Shah!
Please moving down. Sorry, please moving down. Stay on the pavement. A lovely police are made for us. Keep moving down. They're keeping us on the pavement for own safety. Thank you.
Excuse me, this is mine.
Don't let anyone else.
Excuse me, this is mine.
This has passed. Right, give me a second. Let me just sort this one first. Yeah, 1 minute.
This is an MSF speaker, Medicine Sans Frontières speaker. Can you please identify yourself and come to the front? We need you.
Do you know where Monette is?
I don't know who he is.
Monette.
Monette. She's back that way.
Have you? Who's got walkie-talkies?
I don't have a walkie-talkie.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you walk down, please go all the way down. There is a lot of space. We have to fill it up behind it. Thank you.
Please just make some space to the right.
It won't take very long.
Okay, brother, do you mind if it's something? You guys did really well. It's Monday afternoon. I can send you the link.
So sorry, guys.
Shall we do this? Yeah, let's go. Doctor, once you're done with this. Rolling.
Young blood. Yes. Here, this man now and you're loud, you know, it's a long way to see without hard nations. it's reality. They understand it's the link. The link is that
Yeah, so
just explain one of
Ladies and gentlemen, with the protest, thank you. Please walk all the way down. There is a lot of space down here for everybody. Please walk all the way down. Stay on the pavement. Thank you. All the way down. Please stay on the pavement. Thank you.
at the end, it's a better coordination. Oh, yes.
So excuse me, guys. You're right.
Guys, if you're not help Tabasco and you're not working hard, you follow to the other side.
I'm screaming for healthcare workers for Palestine. I ask you, please keep this front.
Yeah, we should have. I mean, I think that they should have yesterday. Non-aggravation. That's okay.
عرفينا بحضرتك وليش جاي هون اليوم إن شاء الله.
أنا سارة جاية مع صاحبتي زهرة، وإحنا الاتنين بنشتغل في قسم العلاج الطبيعي هنا في بريطانيا في لندن. كلنا جايين مرة السنة بشرطة وسفير الفلسطيني وعدد من الدكاترة، بنتكلم عن اللي بيحصل في فلسطين، وعاملين النهاردة مظاهرة صامتة على الحاجات البشعة اللي الدكاترة في فلسطين وفي غزة بيمروا بيها دلوقتي وبيعالجوا يعني في أبشع الظروف وفي أبشع الأوقات، بيشوفوا ظروف قاسية جدا وبيشوفوا مرضى في أبشع حالاتهم، فاحنا بنقف جنبهم ونوصل لنا صوتهم من هنا، ونتمنى إن هم يكونوا بخير وربنا ينصرهم يا رب إن شاء الله.
Thank you. That is great. Thank you very much.
دكتورة دكتورة تعرفينا بحضرتك سبب وجودكم هنا اليوم؟
اهلا وسهلا. انا جايه بصفتي طبيبه في انجلترا واحنا بنقف مع الاطباء في غزه، وطبعا كل انتهاكات حقوق الانسان اللي بتحصل هناك وقتل الاطفال وقتل العمد للاطباء والممرضين وكل اعضاء يعني الفريق الطبي، طبعا بالعدو الغاشم اسرائيل ان هم بيحاولوا ان هم يقتلوا الاطباء عشان ما يعالجوش المرضى والمصابين. ده بيزود طبعا من يعني ان هي جرائم حرب وضد الانسانيه، مش بس مجرد ان هم بيقتلوا الجنود او حماس او غيرها، لكن هم قاصدين ان هم يقتلوا برضو الاطباء، وعشان كده احنا جايين ندافع عن حقوق الاطباء في غزه يعني.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out. My name is Omar Abdel Mannan. I'm a pediatric neurologist based in London and one of the organizers of today's silent procession and vigil here at 10 Downing Street. I want to thank you for respecting the silent march, the silent procession that we have just held as a message to our Prime Minister, to our government, to all the leaders of the free world, that it is not acceptable to stay silent in the face of the atrocities that are happening inside Gaza, minute by minute, hour by hour. And we will not remain silent. We will keep shouting, we will keep screaming until this stops. We have a number of speakers here today. Many of them you will recognize. Many of them are heroes, and many of them have been in Gaza numerous times to work, to look after sick children, women, and men. I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Professor Nick Maynard, a dear colleague, friend, mentor, who is an upper GI surgeon based in Oxford and was the first person that brought me into the West Bank in 2011 as a medical student, and has led medical teams into Gaza for the past 10 to 15 years. He is a friend, a brother to the Palestinian people, and it is an honor to be sharing the stage with him. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Omar. So as Omar said, I'm a surgeon in Oxford, but I've been going to Gaza for nearly 15 years now to teach medical students, and in recent years to teach and carry out surgery as well. I do feel truly humbled to be sharing a platform with people who are my heroes, and no less than one of the speakers in a minute, Grassan, who everyone will know. He's my hero and he's your hero as well. I feel a very lucky man at times because I'm one of the few people here who's been privileged enough to go into Gaza. You've all read about and heard about the appalling events of recent weeks, but I want to tell you briefly about another side of Gaza. Anyone who's ever been there falls in love with the place and they can't stop going back. That happened to me when I first went there 15 years ago, and I can't keep away. It's a beautiful country, and the Gazan people are beautiful, beautiful people. I've made many friends there, and many of them are like family. I have a Gazan daughter down there, Inas. My wife and I, we call ourselves her adoptive parents in England, in the absence of her real parents who are in Gaza and cannot get out. When she got married, we were there, we gave her away. Her cousins, including small children, have been killed in Gaza, but her close family are still alive, but she goes many days without talking to them. They are my family too. I've eaten with them in their home in Gaza. I have laughed and cried with them. I've hugged and kissed and played with their small children. This is all about innocent people who have been killed in Gaza and whose friends and families' lives will have changed forever. I'd like to remind you about my Sarah, who was a friend of mine and a close friend of Enas. He was a doctor in Gaza, recently married, his wife pregnant with their first child. He was killed several weeks ago by an Israeli bomb. His parents and his two sisters were killed. 2 days later, his brothers were searching in the rubble for him, and another bomb killed them. His wife and unborn baby are the only surviving members of that family. I've eaten with his family in Gaza. My Sarah stayed in our house. He ate at our table with all of my family, and he's now dead. I'd like to finish with a few quotes from doctors and nurses out there. I was speaking the other day with Eslam, who's a senior operating theatre nurse at the European Hospital in Gaza, with whom I was operating on patients this May. I said, what do you want me to tell the people collecting in London? Everything is bad here, she said. We are dying. We have spent the whole of last night amputating limbs. Many children, some of them as young as 2 years of age. I can't stand it anymore. My friend and colleague was killed today. Her last comment was, if we die, don't forget us. She knows we won't forget her. She knows we won't forget all the other healthcare workers out there and all the innocent people of Gaza who need our support. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much, Nick, for your extremely powerful words. And thank you for your solidarity to the Palestinian people, your continued work, which has led to so much hope for people in Gaza. Our next speakers is a double act of incredible women who have been working tirelessly, again, to help the people of Gaza, the people of Palestine. I'd like to introduce to the stage Dr. Rachel Craven, who is the Vice President of Doctors Without Borders, UK, Médecins Sans Frontières, and Dr. Nikki McLean, who is the President of Doctors Without Borders. Please make your way to stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Omar. Whoever stays until the end will tell the story. We did what we could. Remember us. A picture of these words, written on the operating theatre whiteboard in Al Order Hospital, was sent to us by Dr. Mahmoud Abu Najela, an MSF doctor working in Al Order Hospital. 2 weeks after sending us this message, he was dead. He, along with 2 colleagues, Dr. Ahmad Al-Sahar and Dr. Ziad Al-Tatari, were killed in an attack on the hospital. They were killed having not seen their families for a month. They had their lives ahead of them. They dedicated all their energy to the sick and wounded in the hospital and were killed at the bedsides of their patients. Already that month, on 6th of November, an MSF laboratory technician, Mohammed Al-Ahel, had been killed during an airstrike on his home in Al-Sheikh refugee camp, alongside 6 members of his family. On the 18th of November, while MSF were attempting to evacuate some of our staff and family members from Gaza City, the clearly marked convoy came under Israeli fire. Authorities had been notified in advance of our route. Our colleague, Ala Al-Shawa, an operating department nurse, was shot. He died several days later of his injuries. He could not be evacuated and had to be buried in the MSF clinic grounds. Just 4 days ago, another of our doctors in Al-Orda Hospital was shot and injured at work, hit by gunfire directed through the windows of the hospital.
We look on in horror and mourn these deaths. We mourn the deaths of all healthcare workers, their families and their patients. We condemn the indiscriminate killing and forced displacement that is occurring on a staggering scale and intensity. Millions of people trapped in an ever-decreasing space, knowing nowhere is safe. We condemn the attacks on numerous hospitals and healthcare facilities throughout Gaza. The majority of hospitals are now non-functional, and those still open are very limited with what they can do, disabled by a lack of electricity, water, and even basic supplies. The situation in hospitals in Gaza is catastrophic. A health system destroyed within 2 months, along with schools, mosques, churches, and houses. Nor must we forget the horrendous conditions in the West Bank. We condemn the attacks on hospitals in the West Bank, with the Israeli military blocking entry to the hospitals and harassing ambulances and patients. Hospitals stand quiet. The injured are denied access. Each health worker killed, each healthcare facility destroyed, a catastrophe, not just for now, but for many years to come. The mother who dies in labour, the child who can't get treatment for their pneumonia, the grandfather who dies from his heart disease. MSF demands all parties respect the status of healthcare facilities and protect them, their staff and their patients at all times. MSF demands an end to the siege, to allow unimpeded access for staff and supplies to provide a meaningful humanitarian response, to allow the population access to basic necessities of survival, food, water, shelter. As winter draws in, we already see malnutrition, disease and flooding. With this, the need for healthcare staff, medical supplies and food will grow. The vulnerable are the forgotten in this conflict. The old, the chronically ill needing medicines, pregnant women, young children.
We end with the words from one of our staff in Gaza. I have a message to the whole world. If you are born and live in Gaza, unfortunately, your life will be complicated and you will become just a number, not worth anything. We are not numbers. We are not heroes. We are humans. We have dreams and we work hard to achieve them. We are screaming from our hearts, but we are keeping it hidden from our children to give them hope and safety. And please stop saying that we're heroes like in the Marvel movies. We don't need empathy words without actions, because that will not change the reality. We need protection and feeling we're safe, and that will not happen by messages of empathy. Our souls are dead. We lose our dignity. We deserve better life conditions.
Stop the war now.
Thank you so much, Rachel and Nikki, for a really moving speech. And thank you for your endless work with Doctors Without Borders, saving the lives of Palestinians and helping to work and do great work inside Gaza and the West Bank and the occupied Palestinian territories. Our next speaker is Professor Shafi Ahmed. Professor Shafi is a cancer surgeon based in London who has been out to Gaza since 2015 and set up the cancer training program inside Gaza. Has made a huge impact inside the territories and has been traveling with a team led by medical aid Palestinians alongside Professor Nick Maynard and many others. So I'd like to invite you to the stage and I look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you very much. So far, 260 healthcare workers have been killed in the current conflict. That's doctors, nurses, paramedics, ambulance crew, pharmacists, dentists, as well as medical students and deans of medical schools. They've sacrificed their lives to save others. It was sensible for all of us in that case to spend 30 seconds in silence to respect those who have sacrificed their lives. Thank you. It's been the privilege of my life to visit West Bank and Gaza over 15 times over the last 10 years, understanding the Palestinian people, their cause, their drive for freedom, and how they've had to live in the most precarious conditions known to mankind across the world. What I've felt is pure love for the Palestinian people, not just Gaza, West Bank. They're the most intellectual people I've come across, with the highest literacy rate amongst the world. Very dedicated as doctors and healthcare workers, as you can see in the current conflict. They have the zest for knowledge, thirst. They want to do the best they can for their population, given the current circumstances. Since 2015, we've been building capacity for cancer work across Gaza for my own specialty of general surgery. Even before the conflict, systems were failing. They weren't perfect. I'll give an example. Patients with cancer often required treatment outside Gaza. They had to get a permit to leave to get life-saving treatment in terms of chemotherapy or radiotherapy. Up to 2/3 of patients that required further treatment were denied the permit for life-saving treatment to leave Gaza. Can you imagine? They had to make do with less than gold standard treatment and perhaps not actually have the cure they deserve. That was before the conflict. Imagine now, how many thousands of patients are waiting for life-saving treatment? At the moment, hospitals are broken down, as mentioned earlier by the MSF team. Only a third of the hospital are functioning. We've seen the horror stories of surgeons working under candlelight or their phone with a light being used to do the operation, using fairly basic equipment, operating with no painkillers post-operatively, no anesthetic sometimes, offering amputations and life-saving treatment. Can you imagine the horror? This is what they're facing at the moment. This is why we have to keep fighting to ensure that we do provide dignity to the Palestinian people and offer the treatment they deserve. I'll leave you with a couple of just quotes from people that I've met over the last few months online, trying to understand their predicament. They say that we try our best in these circumstances. We are dedicated to our patients, despite the bombing, despite the killing, despite the risks of our lives. All that we can do is ensure we give the best to our people. They shouldn't need to say that. Often we see the silence across the world, and we're all complicit, of course, because the silence allows this perpetuation of terror and the killing to carry on. We have to stop this. There must be another way to provide the dignity and freedom for the Palestinian people. And peace has to be ultimately what they achieve. I'd like to dedicate all of this work that we do to the people of Palestine, who are without doubt the most wonderful people I've ever come across. And I've traveled widely in many conflict zones. Their strength is our strength. Their cause is our cause. And we will show solidarity until the very end, until they find the peace and the dignity to live in freedom. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Shafi Ahmed. That was, again, a really incredibly powerful speech. Our next speaker is Professor Sui Chai Ang, who was the founder of Medical Aid for Palestinians, a charity that to this day is doing incredible work inside Gaza in the West Bank. She is an orthopedic surgeon of the highest caliber, has worked in numerous war zones, including in Beirut, in Lebanon. She was there at Sabah and Shatila, the massacres in the 80s. She's witnessed horrors done to the Palestinian people and has worked in Gaza and the West Bank. So I'd like to introduce Dr. Sui Ang. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Oma. Well, I think I'm growing old. I took the central line in the wrong direction. And also, it is good because arriving to see so many of us, I feel so moved because this is fitting for the people of Gaza and the doctors and health workers who gave their lives for their patients. There could be no greater honor for us than to stand here in honor of them, in solidarity with them, remembering them, and pledging ourselves that we will not fail them. I don't have a lot to say because many of you already know the situation. And I've been with the Palestinians for 41 years. So if I start talking about 41 years, you will all want to go home now. So really, what we should say now is we will stand with Gaza come whatever may. Yes. Stand with Gaza, stand with Palestine, stand for justice, stand for truth until the day comes when they are free, they have got their own homeland, their children can live, they can rebuild the hospitals and look after their patients, and then we will be there to celebrate with them. Yes. Repeat with me. We will stand with Gaza and Palestine, come whatever may. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, my friends, my family, my Palestinian friends, and all my friends who are working for justice all over the world. This is their moment, and this is also our moment. Thank you very much for coming here. And thank you so much for supporting the Palestinians. And may we have many, many days and many years to continue to support them and love them and honor them in our hearts. I know I'm not allowed to say this, but may Palestine achieve freedom and justice in our lifetime. And may we claim the honor of being with them and not failing them. Omar, thank you.
Can you be my friend? I love you. Come home. Yeah, come home with us. We'll come for you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Spee. Now, our next speaker, I suspect, is one of the biggest reasons many of you are here today. It is an absolute honor and privilege to be standing on the stage next to Professor Dr. Ghassan Abu Sitta. Dr. Ghassan does not need any introduction, but for those who may not have been on social media, have not been watching the news, he's a plastic and reconstructive surgeon who went out to Gaza when he saw what was happening. And he has been there for the last few months, up until 2 weeks ago when he had to flee under heavy bombardment, despite him wanting to be there and wanting to stay in Gaza until the last day. He is an absolute hero, and it is an absolute honor to have him here. Thank you so much for coming out today, Dr. Ghassan.
Thank you very much for your kindness. And as we speak now, Israeli army snipers are surrounding Lauda Hospital in Jabalia camp and continue to fire into the hospital, trying to kill as many of the staff as they can. As we speak now, Israeli tanks surround Ahli Baptist Hospital, and Israeli Air Force has been bombing the area around the hospital. As we speak now, Israeli forces have tried to shut down the Sahaba Hospital, the only working maternity unit in northern Gaza. This continuous war against the Palestinian health system aims at making Gaza an uninhabitable place so that the wounded die slowly and the ill die as a result of what were chronic illnesses. We also stand here in awe of Palestinian health workers. Our colleagues, our friends, now in different hospitals in Gaza are risking their lives. On Monday, Israeli snipers shot Dr. Mohammed Abeid, an orthopedic surgeon working at Lauda Hospital, while he was rounding on his patients. And I remember when I heard this, thinking that, ward rounds are always the bane of the life of every doctor. But for you to be able to do a ward round without being shot is something that all of us take for granted. Doctors in Gaza, I've watched them go from one hospital to the other. Dr. Abeid and I worked at Lauda Hospital at the beginning of the war, and then we moved together to Shifa Hospital. And then he decided to remain with his patients at Shifa Hospital until the Israelis withdrew, and then moved to the Indonesian hospital, which was then bombed by the Israelis, and then moved to Lauda Hospital where he was shot. Dr. Ahmed Mkhallalati, who trained at St. Thomas's where we met, stayed with his patients at Shifa Hospital until these patients were able to leave safely, and then now has moved to the south and is working at the European Hospital. And like them, thousands of Palestinian health workers remain steadfast and resist this death by providing the kind of care that they can to their patients. The siege, in addition to the direct attacks,
have denied Palestinian health workers the ability to treat their patients. We watched our patients die of treatable injuries because we could not help them, because we did not have the medication, because the hospitals that we relied on to transfer them to were destroyed. We watched children with diabetes die of a lack of insulin because the pediatric hospitals had been destroyed. We watched patients with head injuries die at Al Ahli Hospital because Shifa's neurosurgical department had been shut down. And I know that now, every day, Palestinian doctors are dealing with the horrendous task of trying to decide who they can treat, knowing very well that they are leaving behind wounded who they could have treated under better conditions, but they do not have any of the necessary medication or resources to treat them. The solution is basic. Israel's representatives in the World Health Organization's General Assembly do not belong there. Israel's representatives on UNICEF's council do not belong there. Israel's representatives in the World Medical Association do not belong there. The only solution is sanctions. Sanctions against this barbaric regime. Sanctions against the genocide. Until the genocide stops, Israel's representatives in world organizations and UN organizations need to be sanctioned and expelled. Israel's membership of these organizations need to end. Until they stop killing our children, there is no place for them amongst the nations of this world. When Israel chose to kill over 10,000 Palestinian children, it decided to set itself aside from the rest of humanity. And Israel has to be punished for this decision. The killing continues, and our friends and our colleagues continue the daily struggle of trying to do their best with very little. There's nothing more difficult than watching patients with major injuries being bandaged and placed in the corner of the hospital because you don't have the ability to treat them. There is nothing more difficult than treating patients without anesthetic, because you know that unless you do that, unless you clean those wounds, they will become septic and they will die by the end of the day. Our job is to ensure that these patients receive the treatment that they deserve and the justice that they need. These patients have to be rescued, and the only way to rescue them is to put pressure on the Israelis to stop this massacre, to put pressure on the Israelis to open up Gaza's borders so that medical teams could go in, so that field hospitals could go in, so that medication and medical supplies can go in, and so that the people, the 50,000 wounded, the majority of whom still need surgery, can be saved. Thank you very much for your solidarity.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ghassan. As I said, it's an honor to be sharing the platform with a real hero of the people of Gaza. Our next speaker is Dr. Ghada Karmi. Dr. Ghada needs no introduction. She is a Palestinian activist, academic, physician, humanitarian, someone who's written for the cause of Palestinians for decades and has had an enormous impact for the people of Palestine. It is again an honor to be standing here by your side. Thank you.
Thank you, friends. Greetings to you, and thank you for coming out and for your solidarity. I want to start
by paying tribute to Dr. Hassan and all the colleagues, all the medical colleagues who have given so much, very often their lives, the rest of it sacrificing themselves for the sake of their patients. I pay tribute to all of them. It's not an accident that we are holding this demonstration near Downing Street. It is just a very great pity that the British Prime Minister will not be listening to us and is very likely not even here. The truth is that the only way forward to end this hideous conflict is for Israel to be, as Dr. Hassan said, sanctioned and made into a pariah state, which is what it is. And the first thing that the British Prime Minister could do would be to expel the Israeli ambassador. And the second thing is to stop selling arms to Israel. And all the rest would follow, to use every kind of diplomatic means to isolate Israel, to expel it from all international organizations, for the message to go out that this is not a state that we do business with. And you know, the irony of all this, the thing that really grieves me as a Palestinian, is that it was Britain who created Israel. And they have a special responsibility to the Palestinian people for all the damage that they have done. The only way now to make up for the consequences of that act of creating Israel in 1948, the only way that they can make up the reparations that they can make is to do all those things I've just said, to exclude Israel from everywhere, to isolate it, and to confess that creating Israel was a mistake.
Thank you, everybody, for coming today. We have one more speaker, but just before we do that, we'll move into our minute silence to honour those who've passed away, the healthcare workers, the civilians, the children, and every single one of them that we've lost. And we'll start now. Thank you. Thank you all. Our next speaker is Ben Jamal. He is the head of the Palestine solidarity campaign and a great supporter of the Palestinian people. And the main reason we have an amazing turnout today. Please put your hands together for bin Jamal.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to thank you all for coming today, and I want to thank Omar and health workers for Palestine for organising this demonstration, and for all the other important vigils and demonstrations they have been organising over the past few weeks. These are important acts of solidarity, and right now, the Palestinian people, and I speak to you as a Palestinian, right now, the Palestinian people who are experiencing a dark chapter in our struggle for liberation, right now, we need that solidarity more than ever. Now, solidarity begins as an act of empathy, as an act of love. It begins as a recognition of a shared humanity with people suffering oppression or injustice, and seeks to deliver to those people a message. We see you, we hear you, we share your pain, we stand with you. But real solidarity calls us to action. Real solidarity is love made political. It accepts the principle that unless we take action to address an injustice, then we become complicit in allowing that injustice to flourish. Now, for many of you marching today, I know that your solidarity begins because you belong to a community, a global community of medics who have chosen to devote your lives to the care of your fellow human beings, to protect them from disease and injury. And today you stand in solidarity with your Palestinian brothers and sisters, your fellow medics in Gaza. They are seeking to uphold that profound responsibility at the risk of their own lives. Since Israel began its indiscriminate bombing of Gaza, it has launched nearly 400 attacks on healthcare facilities. It has killed over 300 healthcare staff, as the UN Special Rapporteur on the Right to Health said last week. Israel has launched an attack upon the whole practice of medicine. Now, we know this truth. This did not begin on October the 7th. There are root causes to the current violence we are seeing, and those root causes are Israel's enduring military occupation and the imposition of a system of apartheid on all Palestinians across historic Palestine. And part of the imposition of that system of apartheid has been the maintenance of a 17-year blockade on Gaza that before October the 7th had devastated the basic infrastructure, including healthcare, to the point that the UN said many years ago that unless it was ended, Gaza would not be fit for human habitation. Now, right now, our responsibility, our political priority is to create pressure for a ceasefire in order to prevent a genocide. We do not use that word loosely or carelessly. 800 scholars of the crime of genocide have concluded and told the world's leaders that what Israel has unleashed upon the people of Gaza is a textbook case of genocide. They say this for three reasons. Firstly, because the blockade Israel had imposed for 17 years had so devastated the basic infrastructure that it constituted a prelude to genocide. Secondly, the fact that the assault on Gaza and its civilians is unprecedented in scale. Over 18,000 Palestinians killed, thousands more missing, presumed dead, lying under the rubble of their own homes. More homes destroyed in Gaza than were destroyed in Dresden during the firebombing in the Second World War. More Palestinians killed in the last 9 weeks than were killed in the Nakba of 1948. But the third reason is the expression of genocidal intent by Israel's leaders. Their deputy speaker has called for Gaza to burn. Their president has said there is no such thing in Gaza as an innocent civilian. Their defense minister, who described we Palestinians as inhuman animals, has said Israel must not stop until it has eliminated everything. And the ex-head of Israel's National Security Council welcomed the outbreak of epidemics in Gaza because it would kill more Palestinians more quickly. So friends, right now, we need to keep marching and protesting to keep pressure on our political leaders to call for a ceasefire. The vote in the UN General Assembly last week showed us how isolated Israel is becoming in the global community, but this will not translate into our leaders demanding a ceasefire unless we keep the pressure up. Today, as you gather here at Downing Street, thousands are protesting across the country in our latest day of action. We at PSC have called another national day of action for January the 6th, and on January the 13th, we will be marching here again in London on what we need to make the biggest political demonstration in British history. But friends, remember this truth. When a ceasefire is finally called, and it will be called when even our leaders can no longer stomach the amount of Palestinian blood being spilled, when it is called, then we need sustained action to end the complicity with Israel's system of apartheid of our government, of our public bodies, including pension schemes and universities that invest millions of pounds in companies supporting Israel and in the companies themselves. This week, we have seen the result of such sustained action when a global campaign led here in the UK by Palestine Solidarity Campaign branches with sustained pickets outside sports shops has led Cuba to finally dropping its contract with the Israeli Football Association. So I want to thank you all for coming. But before you head home, join me in giving this message to the Palestinian people and to our political leaders that we will never stop marching, we will never stop protesting, we will never stop boycotting until a ceasefire is called, until the occupation is ended, until apartheid is dismantled, and until the day arrives where we stand shoulder to shoulder with our Palestinian brothers and sisters in a new world, a better world, a world in which the sun will finally rise over a free Jaffa, over a free Jerusalem, and over a free Gaza. Free, free! Free, free! Free, free! Free, free! Thank you.